The fluorescent lights of O'Hare Airport made everything look pale and unforgiving. Livia Anderson stood at baggage claim with her phone pressed to her ear, stomach tight with dread. Her mother's voice crackled through the line. Another double shift at the care home, another missed payment. Livia's eyes burned, but she blinked it away. She just returned from Dubai, 3 weeks funded by strangers on the internet who believed in her community cooking course, and already the weight of the South Side pressed back onto her shoulders. The carousel groaned to life. Suitcases tumbled out like bodies from a chute. Livia reached for the black roller with the frayed corner, grabbed it by the handle, and walked straight into the December cold without checking the tag. It wasn't until she was on the blue line, wedged between a sleeping man and a woman with grocery bags, that she noticed the scent. Cardamom, vanilla, something else, expensive, foreign. She unzipped the case. Inside, crisp gray suits with Italian labels, a Swiss watch in a velvet box, a locked silver laptop, and a bilingual folder stamped with a corporate seal she didn't recognize. Her hands shook. This wasn't hers. But tucked inside the folder was a business card. Idris Al-Nadim, investor. A Chicago phone number written in neat pen on the back. Livia sat frozen as the train rocked through the tunnel. She thought of her own suitcase, a decade old, held together with duct tape, stuffed with her blue notebook, cheap clothes, and a Ziploc bag of spices from the Dubai market. Whoever had her bag now owned nothing of value, except the notebook. That notebook held everything. Her recipes, her sketches, her dreams written in the margins between coupon clippings and ingredient lists. Hummus with pecans, empanadas with cheese curds, date pudding with molasses. Her breath caught. She had to get it back. The cafe in Lincoln Park felt like another country. White marble tables, indoor palms in brass planters, a glass ceiling that let in too much light. Livia sat with her back straight, the stranger's suitcase at her feet, and her hands folded tight in her lap. Idris Al-Nadim arrived exactly on time. Tall, sharp-featured, wearing a navy coat that probably cost more than her rent. He moved through the space like he owned it, scanning faces with the efficiency of a man used to solving problems quickly. When his eyes landed on her, he stopped. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he crossed the room, sat down without asking, and said, "You're the one with my laptop." "And you're the one with my life," Livia replied. He blinked. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. Not warmly. More like someone recognizing an opponent worth respecting. "I read your notebook," he said. Her stomach dropped. "You had no right." "I know." He didn't look apologetic. "But I did, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since." Livia's jaw tightened. She hated the idea of him flipping through her private pages, judging her handwriting, her crossed-out mistakes, her ridiculous little dreams scrawled in the corners. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want you to design a menu." She stared at him. "I'm opening a restaurant chain," Idris continued, leaning forward slightly. "Something that bridges cultures, high-end but accessible. I've hired consultants, chefs, marketing teams, but nothing feels real." Then I opened your notebook and saw hummus with pecans, empanadas with cheese curds, recipes that shouldn't work but do. You write like someone who understands hunger. "I am someone who understands hunger," Livia said flatly. "Good." His eyes didn't waver. "Then you're exactly who I need." She wanted to laugh or scream. Instead, she said, "I'm a housekeeper, not a chef." "You're a creator," he corrected, "and I'm offering you a contract." "With what terms?" "That's negotiable." Livia leaned back, arms crossed. "Authorship, royalties, and a training program for kids from neighborhoods like mine." Idris studied her for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. "Deal. But you prove it first." The 28th floor was all glass and skepticism. Livia stood in the conference room with her notebook open, her hands steady, despite the eyes drilling into her. Around the table sat men in tailored shirts, women with designer glasses, and at the head of it all, Fareed Qasim, Chief Operations Officer, arms folded like a gate. "This is the consultant?" Fareed's tone was surgical. "This is Livia Anderson," Idris said, "and she's here to show you what we've been missing." Fareed's expression didn't change. "No offense, but we've spent 6 months developing a brand strategy. We don't need... Taste this." Livia placed a small spoon in front of him. The room went silent. Fareed looked at Idris. Idris nodded. Slowly, Fareed lifted the spoon, tasted. His jaw worked. Then he set it down and stared at the table. "What is that?" "Roasted red pepper, with smoked paprika, honey, and a touch of sumac," Livia said evenly. "Costs $11 per batch to make. Sells for $9 a serving. Pairs with flatbread, grilled vegetables, or lamb. I can scale it for 500 covers a night without losing flavor." One of the analysts leaned forward. "You brought financials?" Livia opened her notebook. Inside were hand-drawn spreadsheets, supplier lists, cost breakdowns for every ingredient. Fareed's eyes narrowed. "Where did you learn this?" "Supermarkets," Livia said. "Food banks, community centers, places where you can't afford to waste anything." For the first time, Idris smiled, but Fareed didn't. "We'll need to verify your sourcing," he said coolly, "and review your credentials." "I don't have credentials," Livia replied. "I have results." "Then we'll see if they hold up under scrutiny." The meeting ended without applause. But Ahmad, Idris's assistant, caught her on the way out. "That was impressive," he said quietly. "Fareed doesn't like change, but he respects precision. You just gave him both." Livia nodded, but her chest felt tight. She'd won the room, but she hadn't won Fareed, and something told her he wouldn't forget that. 3 weeks later, the article dropped. Livia was at the test kitchen, elbow deep in dough, when Ahmad knocked on the door. His face was pale. "You need to see this." He handed her his phone. The headline read, "From housekeeping to high cuisine, investor's new muse raises eyebrows." The byline, "Paula VR." Livia's hands went cold. The article didn't name her directly, not at first. It called her an unnamed consultant with no formal training, who had gained unusual access to a high-profile restaurant project. It mentioned her Southside address, her fundraising campaign for Dubai, her past employers. It stopped just short of calling her a charity case. But the comments section didn't stop at all. Gold digger, diversity hire, sleeping her way to the top. Livia set the phone down carefully, her vision blurred. Ahmad touched her shoulder. "Idris is handling it. He's already called his lawyers." "No." Her voice came out flat, hard. "This is my problem. I'll handle it." "Livia." "I said no." She walked out of the kitchen, past the stainless steel counters and sous chefs who suddenly wouldn't meet her eyes, and locked herself in the bathroom. She sat on the closed toilet seat, head in her hands, and let herself shake. Not cry, just shake, because crying meant breaking, and she couldn't afford to break, not now. When she finally came out, Idris was waiting in the hallway. "I'm going to fix this," he said. "You can't fix this." Livia's voice was steady now. "You can throw money at it. You can threaten lawsuits. But you can't undo what people already think." "Then what do you want me to do?" "Nothing." She met his eyes. "I want you to do nothing, because if you fight this for me, it proves their point, that I'm just some project you picked up, some girl who needed saving." "You don't need saving." "Then stop acting like I do." She walked past him, and for the first time since they'd met, Idris didn't follow. Livia buried herself in work. She spent 18-hour days in the test kitchen, perfecting recipes, running cost analyses, sourcing suppliers who could meet her standards without gouging her budget. She stopped answering Idris's calls. She stopped going to meetings. She let the food speak for itself. And it did. The beta tasting, a private event for investors and food critics, sold out in 2 days. The dining room glowed with candlelight and low music. Servers moved like shadows. The menu was a single folded card, handwritten in Livia's careful script. She stood in the back, arms crossed, watching. The first course went out. Roasted beet salad with ladna and pistachio crumble. Silence. Then forks scraping plates. The second course, lamb shoulder with apricot glaze and herbed couscous. Murmurs of approval. By the fourth course, date pudding with molasses and sea salt. People were leaning back in their chairs with the stunned expressions of the converted. Idris found her in the kitchen afterward. His tie was loosened, his sleeves rolled up. "You did it," he said. "We did it," Livia corrected. "No." His voice was firm. "You did it. This is yours." She looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, she saw something other than wealth and control. She saw exhaustion, uncertainty, the same fear she carried every day, just dressed in better clothes. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded. Then after a beat, "I'm sorry for trying to fix things without asking, for acting like I knew what you needed. You were trying to help. I was trying to control the narrative." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm used to solving problems with money, with power, but you're not a problem, and I'm still learning how to just stand beside someone." Livia felt something shift in her chest. "Then stand beside me," she said. "Not in front, not behind, beside." Idris held her gaze, and for the first time, he looked like he understood. The grand opening was 6 weeks away. Livia moved into overdrive. Menu revisions, staff training, supplier negotiations. She built a partnership with a Southside co-op for produce. She hired 3 apprentices from her old neighborhood, kids who reminded her of herself at 17, hungry, sharp, and tired of being overlooked. Idris watched her work with something close to awe, but Farid watched with something else. One afternoon, Ahmad pulled Livia aside in the storage room. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly, "off the record." Livia set down the clipboard. "Go ahead." Farid's been asking questions about your suppliers, your contracts. He's looking for mistakes. Let him look. I've got nothing to hide. That's not the point. Ahmad hesitated. He's also been in contact with Paula Villar. I saw an email thread on his desktop. He didn't think I was watching. Livia's stomach turned. What kind of contact? Schedules, numbers, details about the restaurant that shouldn't be public yet. He's leaking information. Ahmad nodded. Why? Because you make him look obsolete. You're doing what he couldn't. Connecting people, creating something real. And he spent 20 years building his reputation as the operations genius. You're a threat to that. Livia stood very still. What do I do? Find proof. Document everything. And when you're ready, take it to Idris. And if Idris doesn't believe me, he will. Ahmad's voice was certain. Because he trusts you. Maybe more than he's ever trusted anyone. Livia nodded slowly. Then she went back to work. But now she was watching. And 2 weeks later, in the early hours of the morning, she found what she needed. The storage room smelled wrong. Livia stood among the shelves of spices and oils, frowning at a box labeled sesame paste, certified organic. She'd ordered this batch herself, checked the supplier, verified the specs, but the consistency was off. She opened the container, tasted a small amount. Her mouth puckered. Wrong brand, wrong formulation, and worse, It contained an additive that 3 of her apprentices were allergic to. Her pulse quickened. She checked the delivery logs. The shipment had been approved by Fareed 2 days ago, flagged as upgraded to international standards. Livia took photos, saved the logs. Then she walked straight to Idris's office. He was on a call when she entered, but he took one look at her face and ended it. "What's wrong?" Livia placed the evidence on his desk. "Fareed swapped out our ingredients. The sesame paste we ordered was organic, allergen-friendly, and vetted by our team. This is a cheaper, contaminated version. If we serve this at opening, someone could get hurt, or worse." Idris's jaw tightened. He scrolled through the photos, the logs, the supplier emails. Why would he do this? Cost savings, or sabotage, maybe both. Livia's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "He's been working against me since day one, and now he's putting lives at risk to prove a point." Idris sat back, his face unreadable. "If I fire him now, the board will panic," he said slowly. "Fareed has relationships, investors who trust him. If I remove him a week before opening, then we open with a lie," Livia interrupted. "And if someone gets hurt, that's on us, on me." She met his eyes. "If we have to open with risk and lies, I'd rather walk away." The room fell silent. Idris stared at her. Then, without another word, he picked up his phone and called his lawyer. The announcement came 48 hours before opening night. Fareed Qasim had been removed from this position, effective immediately. Legal proceedings were underway. A brief statement cited breach of contractual obligations and compromised safety protocols. The media exploded. Paula Villar published a follow-up piece within hours, full of unnamed sources and veiled accusations. Idris's investors demanded explanations. The board scheduled an emergency meeting, but Idris didn't flinch. He stood in front of the press, calm and precise, and said, "This restaurant is built on integrity. Anyone who compromises that, regardless of title or tenure, will be held accountable." Livia watched the press conference from the kitchen, her heart in her throat. And when it was over, Idris came to find her. "You okay?" he asked. "They don't know yet." She looked at him. "Did I just destroy your company?" "No." His voice was firm. "You just saved it." She wanted to believe him, but that night, alone in her apartment, she lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision, every word, every moment that had led her here. She thought about the girl she used to be, invisible, unheard, working doubles just to keep the lights on. And she thought about the woman she was becoming, someone who refused to be small, who demanded respect, who walked away rather than compromise. The fear hadn't gone away, but the shame had. And maybe, she thought, that was enough. Opening night arrived like a storm. The dining room blazed with light. Cameras flashed. Critics filled the front tables, notebooks open. Influencers angled for the perfect shot. And in the center of it all, Livia stood in the kitchen, hands steady, voice calm, directing her team with the precision of a conductor. Idris gave the opening speech. He spoke about bridging worlds, about honoring tradition while embracing innovation. And then, without hesitation, he said, "Every dish you taste tonight was created by Livia Anderson, a woman who turned hardship into art and invisibility into authorship. This is her vision, her legacy." The room erupted in applause, but Paula Villar, seated near the back, raised her hand. "Mr. Al-Nadim, there are rumors about your relationship with Ms. Anderson. Can you comment?" The room fell silent. Idris looked at Livia. She stepped forward, took the microphone, and said quietly, "My relationship with Idris is professional. What matters tonight isn't gossip, it's this." She gestured to the apprentices standing in the kitchen doorway. "These are the people who made this meal possible. Jasmine, Raphael, Dion, all from the South Side, all trained in the last 3 months. They deserve your attention, not my personal life." Then she pulled out her phone and displayed screenshots on the projection screen behind her. And since we're talking about truth, here's the real story. Fareed Qasim leaked confidential information to create doubt. He swapped ingredients to cut costs and undermine our work. He put people at risk. That's not speculation. That's documented fact. The room erupted again, but this time with shock. Paula's face went pale, and Idris, standing beside Livia, announced, "Legal action is underway. Accountability matters. Now let's eat." The critics stood and applauded. Even Paula, cornered and exposed, wrote the truth this time. 3 months later, the restaurant had 5-star reviews and a waiting list. The Blue Notebook Institute opened in a renovated South Side building, funded by shared profits and independent grants. Livia ran it herself, teaching, mentoring, building the future she'd once only dreamed of. Idris restructured his company, independent compliance, transparent sourcing, and a board seat reserved for community input. On the night of the Institute's ribbon cutting, Livia stood on the front steps, surrounded by apprentices, neighbors, and her mother, who cried and hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. Idris arrived late, holding a bouquet of herbs instead of flowers. "Thought these were more your style," he said. Livia laughed, took them, smelled the basil and thyme. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." "Thank you," he replied, "for showing me what integrity looks like." They stood together in the fading light, not touching, just present. And then, quietly, Idris said, "I'd like to stay, if that's okay. Your way, your terms." Livia looked at him, this man who'd learned to step back, to listen, to honor boundaries instead of bulldozing them. "I'd like that," she said. He smiled, and for the first time, it reached his eyes. Later, inside the Institute's teaching kitchen, surrounded by the smell of rising bread and simmering stock, Livia opened the display case in the front hall. Inside her blue notebook, the white embroidered scarf from Idris's mother, and the original luggage tags from the swapped suitcases. A reminder, not of mistakes, but of the moment 2 worlds collided, and instead of breaking, they built something new, together.